Welcome to the Unlocking Wealth podcast. Thanks for joining us. We will motivate and inspire you as we share strategies from successful and wealthy individuals. Here is your host, David Ordonez, an entrepreneur and real estate investor.
So welcome to the Unlocking Wealth podcast. We're very excited to launch this podcast where we are going to interview entrepreneurs, real estate investors, influencers, CEOs, business owners, industry disruptors, crypto experts, fund managers, forex traders, wholesalers, crowd founders, and visionaries, motivational speakers, people that are crushing it and they're unlocking wealth for their lives and for the lives of others. I'm very excited to launch this podcast, and this is our episode number 1. And we have as our guest Austin Rice. Austin is a young entrepreneur. He's been doing real estate wholesaling for the last 3 years, Austin?
Yeah, it's been about 2.5, 3 years.
Awesome. Yeah, so he's an expert in marketing and sales. He started working on the pharmaceutical industry, and then little by little, he moved into the real estate investing, mainly wholesaling, and we'll discuss more what wholesaling is, and you know, Austin will tell all of us his story since he started. So welcome to the show, Austin. We're excited that you're the first one in the show. So thank you for participating in this new venture that we're trying to do and accomplish. And I'm excited that you're here with us this today, man.
Yeah, man. No, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on. So it's going to be a good time. Awesome.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Austin. I mean, how did you start into the real estate? How did you, got intrigued about this business? And just tell us a little bit.
Yeah, man. So just a little bit about me, like my background. I grew up, an athlete, played sports my whole life, and then went to play sports. I played football in college. And then the way I kind of got to real estate was not your typical kind of route. I actually knew nothing about real estate. All I knew is, people bought and sold houses, right? And there's landlords and stuff like that. So that's about all I knew, before. My background was in sales. And so I've been in sales ever since I was, old enough to work at 16. And so right out of school, got a sales job, working at a gym, selling, high-end, gym membership packages and personal training packages and things like that.
Learning how to sell. Learning how
to
sell.
Oh yeah. I mean, learning how to sell, anything, right? Yep. And it's not just, not just selling a product, but selling a service, selling a membership, really getting that consultative kind of sales experience. And then that morphed into, different industries and outside sales. I did logistics, and then that led into pharmaceuticals. And so that's where I was at most recently, was doing pharmaceutical sales. Yeah.
It's crazy how important it is to learn how to sell, right? I mean, we're selling ourselves every single day. I mean, I think that's the number one skill we all have to learn.
Dude, I say that all the time, that, I think one of the most valuable skills for young people to learn, regardless of what your goals are, right? Regardless of, you want to go start your company, or if you want to, go sit at home all day, right? I don't care what your goals are. I think sales is just a super important life skill, because it goes further than just making money, right? I mean, sales is just the ability to influence people to make a decision. So that goes farther than just trying to sell a product or sell a service. That's whenever you're trying to go on a date with a girl, right?
Exactly.
Selling
yourself.
Yeah, you're selling her and going on a date with you, right? So It's sales is a very important life skill, I think. So I think that's one of the most important kind of skills and traits that somebody can learn.
I agree. So you got it into the pharmaceutical, and then you're starting doing some visiting doctors and selling.
So I mean, I was literally, I covered. I'm based out of Florida, So I'm based out of Jacksonville, Florida. So I covered all the way down to Orlando, and then all the way like the entire Panhandle. So like I covered basically Orlando and up in
Okay.
Florida, and all the way over. And so I was traveling a lot. Probably like 2 or 3 weeks a month. I was traveling, going talking to these different doctors, and I was in ocular pharmaceuticals, so that's optometrists, ophthalmologists, and eye surgeons. That's my target clientele was. So
Okay.
I was traveling all over, going into their offices, cold, warm, hot, trying to bring on new business to the company, trying to grow the book of business I already had, which I was doing really well at, right?
And how did you connect with real estate? I mean, what happened? I mean, what?
So, I think I think every entrepreneur, right, just kind of has that bug where it's like, I want more, right? And I think it's a blessing and a curse, because you're never satisfied,
You're never
right?
always thinking, what else? What else?
That was what I was doing is I was thinking, right? I was I got to find something else where I can, produce more money, right? It's not like I wasn't making good money doing, pharmaceuticals, but the old saying, right? 7 streams of income, I only had that one. So I was like, all right, cool. Where can I get more? Right. So I was just listening to podcasts
Like this one. Like this one.
like this one, right? And what happened was I just had Spotify on shuffle, and a podcast popped up under the recommended for you, and it was a Wholesaling Inc. podcast. So I had to drive down to Orlando and thought, shoot, might as well throw it on. Dude got on there talking about how he made like $300,000 in his first year.
Wholesaling. What if you some of the audience might know what's wholesaling. Some people might not. Why don't you tell us exactly what's wholesaling?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like broken down to its simplest form, right? Wholesaling is buying low and selling high, right? But in real estate, what it is it's going directly to a seller, getting a property under contract for, say $100,000, and then in your network of people finding a buyer that's actually going to purchase that property for that, and then assigning them the rights to that contract for higher amounts. So I get a contract with a seller for 100,000. I find a buyer at 110,000. We make the difference.
Correct. And usually that buyer is another investor that is going to either renovate the property or keep it as a rental for cash flow, right?
Correct. Yeah. As a wholesaler, we never actually buy the property, right?
Correct.
And that's the legal side of it, right? We have to talk to a real estate attorney. We have to make sure our contract is buttoned up, right? There has to be the and or assigns language in it. We got to make sure that we're covered, but basically, we go out, we put the property under contract with the seller, and then, we market to a very specific, field of properties, right? We're not like these other people. We're just, anybody who owns a house, we're sending them a text message or calling them, right? We market to a very specific homeowner because we have a network of buyers that that I've built a relationship with, that we work with. Because, my biggest thing is I want to do good business, right? And I want to do good by people. With a good transaction, it should be a win-win-win, right?
For everyone. Correct.
And so the last thing that, we want to do is we don't want to go out and get a property under contract and then not have a buyer for it. So then we can't close on it, and then the seller's left high and dry.
And it's important also to add that many times when you get a property under contract from a seller, sometimes you are helping that seller because they're sometimes in a distressed situation. They owe more than the house is worth, or they have liens on the property. So their level of motivation is higher too, right, Austin?
Correct. Yeah. That's one of the things is we go after motivated sellers, right? And I preach this to my guys all the time is that, the sales side to this business is not whenever you're talking to the seller. right? There's a negotiation piece, in the front half, right? But the sales piece of it is not when you're talking to the seller, right? I'm not trying to sell somebody on selling me their house. Okay. I don't want to talk to somebody that I have to convince to sell.
They got to be motivated. They got to be motivated.
I'm not an agent, right? So I'm not going to list the house for them. So I don't want to get on the phone with someone who I have to convince to sell, right?
Correct.
And so we're working with people that, for whatever the case may be, they can't go the traditional route.
Exactly.
It may be outdated. There may be like damages to the property that it wouldn't pass an inspection. They could have a bunch of liens on the property that could be in pre-foreclosure. We've helped people out of divorces. There's a lot of different situations. I mean, there's an endless list of situations that we've helped people out of. But that goes back to my point, right? Like, we want it to be a win-win-win. And so whenever we're working on the seller side, we really want to make sure that we're pulling out the motivation while we're talking to them, to where that I know that there's an actual reason for them to sell, and that we're not just out here making offers to people just to make offers to people.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, we go after a very short list when it comes to population wise of sellers that we work with.
Okay. And then when you so you went to listen to some podcasts about wholesaling, and so you started getting into the world of wholesaling. How did you start doing the business? Did you get a mentor to help you out, or you just started calling people and asking them if they want to sell your house to you? I mean, how did you kind of start narrowing down everything?
Yeah, so I'm not like your typical person, right? I'm as soon as I kind of have an idea and then I kind of put the pieces together, I just go for it. And so I listened to the podcast episode, and the first thing I thought of was, wow, this just sounds like sales and marketing. And then obviously I got to my hotel that night and just started diving into it, right? Dove in head first. I remember that night I stayed up till like 4:00 in the morning, like researching everything I possibly could, right? And never got a mentor or anything like that. They told me, get this, get this, get this. I was like, all right, cool. Can't afford that. Can't afford this. Let me do this, right? So I went up, on PropStream. I pulled a list of like 500 houses, which if anybody listening to this, that is nothing, okay?
PropStream, for the audience, PropStream is a software that you can sign up and you can build lists of properties and.
Yeah, PropStream's awesome, man. It's probably one of the most useful tools that we use. You can build marketing lists. You get MLS access to all 50 states.
Correct.
You can run comps. The list goes on and on what you're able to do. I think if you're going to get involved in wholesaling, that's a must. That's a necessity.
Correct.
Have that. I mean, honestly, I think if you're going to be involved in real estate just in general, whether that's wholesaling, flipping, long-term investing, whatever the case may be, I think PropStream is a great tool to have. I mean, it's cheap. I mean, it's $97 a month, which you're going to spend that worse places, right?
Yeah, we use it as well for running comps, and it's a great tool. Yeah, definitely is a great tool.
I literally just pulled a list off of PropStream. They were like, hey, PropStream doesn't have contact information, so you need to do this and skip trace the list.
Skip trace the list.
My immediate thought was, okay, what the heck is skip tracing? Googled that. Google was my best friend back then, still is to this day. But skip traced the list, and I thought I was like hot shot spending like $200 to skip trace a list, which now looking back on it is super expensive for that size of a list. But and then literally just in the car from in between offices was calling people, hand dialing people from my cell phone. I got a Google Voice number, which if people don't know, any Google account, any Gmail account, you have access to a free
phone.
Yeah. So got a Google Voice number and was literally in my car, like hand dialing people as my GPS is taking me from office to office.
Selling pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. And so, I was talking to sellers on the phone in the car, and then would roll in and, sell ocular pharmaceuticals as soon as I got off the phone. So
That's awesome. I mean, that relates to stories of myself and other people that I know. That when you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you want to make it happen and really unlock the potential wealth that you can build, you're willing to do that stuff. Even if you have a full-time job, you make time to work on that side gig that will become your business eventually, like in your case. So that's that tenacity that is required, to unlock wealth.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's looking back, that was probably some of the most best experience that I got, was because I had to figure out how to really get my message across quickly, right? Because I didn't have all the time. I wasn't spending 8 hours a day, cold calling people or following up with people or anything like that. I was spending 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 15 minutes here. And so I knew that every time I got someone on the phone, I had to make it count.
Great. Had to be efficient.
I think that pressure, really helped me really learn it and understand it and grow in it more, because I didn't have the luxury to mess up, really. I didn't have the luxury to sit there on a dialer, right? I didn't even get Mojo until after I already done a deal, a dialer. Mojo, for people who don't know, a Mojo
is a dialer. How many, they can dial so many 100 calls per hour or something?
Mojo dials 3 numbers at a time.
Yeah,
and it just automatically dials. So I mean, you can dial 500 numbers in a day.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay.
But I mean, back to your point, man, so that's kind of how I got in it. And then, I never actually had a mentor. I took a really different route. So actually, whenever I had first got in it, my wife looked at me and was like, I'm pretty sure a guy I went to college with is doing, what you're trying to do. And so I connected with him and just kind of started talking with him. And I'll give this message to anybody out there. The best way to ask for advice is to give value, right? I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, listen, I'm just getting into it. Because he had been doing it for almost a year at that point. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey man, I'm just getting into this. I'm really good on the phone. I know I can close deals. I know I can sell. If there's anything that I can help you with on that side of it, let me know. And in turn, all I ask is that, you just help me. Right.
That's great.
We got on the phone. And so he actually gave me access to a dialer for the first time. And so I used his dialer, and we just had an agreement, right, that I would work some of his leads as I worked my leads, right? Because I didn't have a bunch of leads. So I would work some of his leads as I worked my leads. And so I was like, cool, man, done. And eventually we that kind of morphed into a business partnership.
Okay.
So he knew the real estate side. He grew up in it. His uncle's in it, his whole family pretty much. So he knew the real estate side in and out, to a T. To this day, one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to the real estate stuff and structuring deals and everything like that.
And that's key. I mean, real estate in specific is such a team sport, right? I mean, you got to build those relationships and build that network. So it's key to partner up with people. And sometimes, people come from different industries or different businesses and they think, oh no, I'm going to do it on my own. And he's like, yeah, I mean, especially in real estate, if you really want to scale the business too, you create a network and you partner up with other people. So I think that's key, and that actually help you kind of, lift your business quicker than if you would be doing it by yourself. I assume that definitely helped you a lot.
Well, I mean, 100%. He gave me, insight and knowledge that would have taken me months and a lot of mistakes, to get. But then, I also was able to, I was able to close deals, right? I was able to talk to people. And
how long did it take you until from this moment you started until you actually close your first deal? I mean, you got your first check,
My story is not a good story. And I say that, out of humility, right? Because every blind squirrel can catch a nut. It took me 2 weeks to get my first check. Um, I got my first deal in 3 days from talking to people, and then I ended up selling that to a local guy for like $2,700, which in the grand scheme of things, like looking back on it, I could have sold it a lot higher. But at the time, right, I still had a full-time job. This was just extra money, right? And so
you were exposing yourself to do this. So
I'm looking at that as a win.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Nowadays, I would lose it if we got a $2,700 deal. But back then that was my first deal, right? I got a contract in 3 days of, calling part-time, and then ended up selling it to a local guy here, and ended up closing and making like $2,700, so that's not common. Okay. For everybody listening, that's not common. It's not common to start cold calling and get your first contract in 3 days.
Correct.
It's usually it takes a little while to kind of ramp up and get things going and really have the conversations with people.
When after you got that first deal and you kept doing kind of like a part-time while you were still working in the pharmaceutical industry, how long did it take you to kind of make the big jump and say, I'm out of here, I'm doing wholesaling full time, and that's it? I mean, how long did it take you?
So it's wild, man. So I have a family. I've got a wife and 2 little boys. And so the pharmaceutical job came with a lot of stuff that as an entrepreneur you don't have, right? Salary, stability, insurance, things like that, So I don't think if COVID wouldn't have happened, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now, to be completely honest, because I was doing, part-time, I was doing like a deal every other month, right? And so it's not like I was doing bad. It was just extra disposable income.
Correct.
And so what happened was March of 2020, I had been doing it part-time for, probably about 7 months or so, give or take. March of 2020 happened, COVID was in Europe and China and everything like that, but we hadn't even gotten a case in the US yet. And I remember to this day, it was like a Monday night at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And, I was about to leave the next morning to go to Pensacola. And I get a call from our VP of sales. And at this time, I was top 5 in the company in sales. Like, I was doing good, right? I thought, no way I would ever be in jeopardy, regardless of what happens, right? Like, no way. About 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, I get a call from our VP of sales. This was the entire conversation, okay? And I can't even make this up. Hey, Austin, how's it going? Good, man. I'm planning my trip for Pensacola. Hey, man, go ahead and cancel that trip. Have you heard of this thing called COVID? I said, yeah, I've heard about it. He said, well, it's affecting our suppliers, and if we don't have product to sell, we don't need a sales team. So because of that, we're furloughing our outside sales staff. Have a good one, man. Good luck. Click. That was it.
That was it. But those are the crazy moments, all right? Because those are the moments that kind of define yourself, and that's how you react, right? I mean, how are you gonna react to that situation with your family, all the bills that you have to take care of after you've been working with this company? So what's your next step? So that's the moment that really defined you, right? I mean, at that moment.
So I remember I went outside and I just sat on the porch for a little bit. Just like you're saying, man, thinking like, all right, what are my next steps? Like, like you said, we got bills, we got, kids, like, what am I going to do? Right. I had this wholesaling thing kind of going, but it wasn't, anything consistent or anything like
stable.
that. Right. Yeah. It wasn't stable. And so I sat outside for maybe about 5 minutes, and I remember I came back inside, I looked at my wife, and I was like, it's probably the best thing that could have happened. She's like freak. I mean, she's looking at me like, what are you talking about, right?
Talking.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going into wholesaling full time. And that next day, I spent a full 8 hours on the phone talking to people, and it was the most liberating feeling in the world. right? I was able to focus.
So you took control. You took control of the situation immediately,
100%.
right?
I didn't. I had a family, man.
And you act on it.
I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself, right? I didn't have time to sulk or to to be like, oh man, what was me? I didn't have time to do that. I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out now, right?
If there's to add to what you're saying, there's a great book that I recommend to the people listening. It's called "The Obstacle Is the Way." And he basically talks about perspective when these things happen, right? So at that moment, you can either go to the corner and start crying and, feel sorry for yourself for 3 weeks until you figure it out. Or the other perspective, well, this is an opportunity. I already have something going on, which is nothing right now. It's just a little side gig. But what if I turn that into a business? And that's the opportunity you took on. So it's key that when obstacles come our way, we kind of see from a different perspective so we can have the right approach to it, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. I think, I think just one, having the right mindset about it, but then two, it's like you said, the perspective, it's not thinking, oh my gosh, woe is me anytime. Because the thing is, right, it's life. Obstacles are going to pop up, things are going to happen, but it's knowing what to do. And sometimes it's not knowing what to do, but just believing in yourself. I mean, I knew kind of, because I was doing it part-time, right? Like I was doing it, every now and then. And when I had free time, which was not a lot.
And he's just worrying about today, right? I mean, he's not worrying about what's going to happen. It's just what's going to happen today, how I control the day today. And then tomorrow, I'll worry about tomorrow.
My thing wasn't even like, what do I do today? Like that wasn't even my thing at that point in time. My thing was, all right, I looked in the bank account. We've got, maybe 2-3 months of bills, that we can sit on. What do I, do I try to go out? And this was like the thought, whenever I'm sitting on the porch is, all right, we got that saved up. All right, do I try to go out and get another sales job? Right? I could easily do that. My resume spoke. I could do that, no problem. All right, do I try to do that? Go out and get another salary and everything, or do I take a chance on myself? And the more I kept thinking about it, I was looking at the assignment fees that I was making on the deals I was doing when I was spending 3, 4, 5 hours a week doing it. And I just thought to myself, screw another sales job. What would happen if I put 40 hours, 50 hours into this? And that was the moment that it clicked with me, right? Was, I'm doing okay. Doing a deal every other month, that's about 6 deals a year. I know some people that do this full time that don't get that. And so I looked at that and I was like, all right, cool. If I'm doing that and really not focusing on it at all, I kind of challenged myself. I was like, Austin, what can you do if you
full time
focus on it, right? And that was the click, the aha moment for me was I just got to focus, and it wasn't even to look out for right now. It wasn't even to do, anything like that. It was literally just, what if, what if I focused on this full time? What can happen? And
how important do you think is the mindset? I mean, that you had at that moment? Because,
oh, dude, it was if I wasn't in the state that I was in, I would have been lost. I'd be on Indeed or LinkedIn, sitting there applying to 50 jobs an hour, right? Like, if I didn't have that mindset, I mean, I will say another thing that kind of trickles back to the mindset was the support from my wife as well.
Correct. That's key.
The support from her, her telling me, I believe in you, you got this. I know you can do it. I mean, that was like a level up for me because, I don't care what we say as men, right? Like we think we can do something, but there's always like that kind of like seed of doubt, right? Where it's like,
there's always that fear and that doubt.
So to hear that was like just super reassuring and super.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing to have a partner like that. Yeah.
But as far as like the mindset goes, man, you know, I'm big into just doing things, right? And I think there's a lot that can happen when you just don't overthink situations, don't overthink questions, or overthink, you know, someone else's response could be. I'm a big believer in that, right?
Analysis paralysis, right? You analyze too much and you're
There's a lot
paralyzed.
of people that do that, man. And, you know, they sit there and they think, right? They think, okay, well, what is he going to say if I say this, right? What's going to happen if I say this, right? What's the response going to be if I don't say this right, you know? And I guess it's kind of like a blessing and a curse at some point. I just don't have those thoughts.
Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and my thing is, like, I'm just gonna say what I want to say. I'm very just kind of black and white, an open book. I mean, you know me. We've talked multiple times. Like, I don't, you know, pull punches, right? Like, if I want to say something, I'm gonna say something. And I'm not out of disrespect or anything like that, but just out of the respect for myself. Like, I don't have the time nor the bandwidth right now to sit there and overthink someone else's reaction. Right.
Correct. So you gotta act on it, and you basically take the chance.
Yeah, I'm not inside their head, right? I don't know
Correct.
what they're gonna say. I don't know how they're gonna take something. So it would be, you know, who of me to try to, you know, in my head, conjure up their thoughts.
Correct.
I think that's where a lot of people get, is they think, and I think that comes back to people thinking they know it all, right?
Correct. Yeah.
People think they know what other people are thinking. And so in turn, they don't say things they want to say because they think they know how that person's going to respond.
Correct.
I'm going to be the first person to say, I don't know everything, right?
That's the, you know, showing that humbleness to continue learning too, right? I mean, we never stop learning, and I think that humility to learn, it's some people don't have it, but I encourage people to always keep learning, even though you think you know it all. You know, there's always room to learn. But so from that moment that you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do full time, I'm going to go wholesaling. So now fast forward to now, right? So it's you've been doing this since literally when COVID started. So you're going to be 2 years with your company doing wholesaling. So you're getting close to 2 years, right? So what do you think? I mean, how has this run been, right? I mean, what's the biggest mistake you made? Then just share it. I mean, I'm sure it's fun.
How much time do we have? No, I mean, as far as like mistakes go, man, I think the biggest mistake that I've personally made is bringing in the wrong people into my team, right? And I carry a lot of that on myself because I give people the benefit of the doubt, right? But I think I have too much confidence in myself when it comes to training and coaching people, that like I don't want to see someone that I coached or that I trained fail, right? And so I will literally like sit there and spin the wheels until they're successful, right?
Correct.
With some people that just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen, yeah.
Especially in the role that, like, you know, the role that we have as our acquisitions manager, which is a very sales heavy role. It's not a position for a lot of people, right? Some people, and it's not a knock to anybody, right? Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses and things like that. So it's not a knock to anybody, but there's just some people that role just isn't for.
Correct.
And so I think one of the biggest like mistakes that I've made is bringing in the wrong people and keeping them for too long. You know,
the saying is hire slow, fire fast, right? Sometimes we want to keep giving the opportunity to a team member, but sometimes it's not working, and you got to let them go. And that's a common mistake in a lot of entrepreneurs. We've done that for sure, you know. But what do you see on how do you see the future in wholesaling? I mean, I've heard and I've read articles about real estate agents. Obviously, they're not too too big of fans of wholesaling because they feel this is a threat for them. But what do you think about the regulation? I've read articles about possible regulation in wholesaling, and what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, man. So my opinion on everything is, I think the reason that I think regulation's coming. Okay, I think regulation is going to be coming for wholesaling. I think the reason that wholesaling right now has a bad name is because, one, the barrier to entry is so low, right? I mean, you can start wholesaling with zero money out of pocket. But also, two, I think the other reason that wholesaling is gotten kind of such a bad name is because people are unethical, man. And they just do bad business, right? People don't care if they leave a seller high and dry. People don't care if they cancel a contract or somebody. People don't care if they uproot somebody else's entire life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a home is a big thing for most of the population, right? A home is.
This is what I tell all of my guys whenever I'm training them, right? Like, we look at houses every day. We make offers to buy houses every single day. We're analyzing properties. We're buying and selling houses every month, right? For I would say almost every single person that we talk to, this is something they only do like maybe 1 to 3 times their entire life.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, especially when it comes like an owner occupied house, we're literally getting someone to sell us their house and then they're moving, right? They're uprooting their entire life and moving, And so, that's the reason I think wholesaling has a bad rap, is because there's a lot of people that just do bad business. Because
what kind of regulation do you think is coming in terms of, like, they're gonna require maybe wholesalers to get a license? They're gonna be, how do you think is the regulation coming? What were your thoughts?
I'm torn on that one, man, because I've been doing a lot of research on that. Obviously, with us, I got to stay on top of stuff like that. For my team, but also for the company. And I don't know. I don't know that it'll be licensing, right?
Okay.
Because, there's also, gray areas with licensed with agents that try to wholesale, right?
And just for the audience, the difference on how a wholesaler makes money is that, you're making an assignment fee by assigning the contract to somebody else. There's no commission.
Correct. There's no commission percentage or anything like that paid. Essentially what it is it's an assignment fee paid by the buyer.
Correct.
So the seller doesn't have to pay anything out of pocket or anything like that. Everything goes through a title company or a closing attorney. So, like, everything's legal.
Everything is legal.
But, I don't know that it'll be regulation as far as, you have to be licensed to wholesale, because there's a gray area with agents, because you're not representing the seller and you're not making a commission.
Correct.
So I don't know. I think there will be regulation. I just don't know
exactly how it's going to be.
Exactly what form it'll be. Yeah. Because I've seen articles on a lot, right? I've seen articles saying they're going to start a wholesaling regulation, overhead. I've seen that they're going to require licenses. I've seen they're going to outlaw assignment fees as a whole, right? Which would require, double closing, which would cut out a lot of people.
Which probably on some way it will be beneficial for the industry, because the industry will get rid of all the people that are scammers, right? And they're not really doing the business out of it. They're just trying to, make a few bucks, but they're, like you said, they'll leave the seller hanging. They're not.
I can't tell you how many times that I've had someone like market my contract. Like, I've had someone send one of my buyers, right? Like, and this is backstory, right? That's how we know each other, is that you guys actually bought one of the, one of the deals.
Correct.
And so, I think it's safe to say that I like to build a relationship with the buyers that I have, right? I don't like to just have an email list and just blast out crap
to whoever.
I have their phone numbers. I text them, and they text me, and that's how we communicate, right? So one of my buyers got one of my deals that I'd already sent to him by someone else.
Wow.
Okay. So like that's the type of stuff that like you see happening that is part of the reason as to why regulation is going to be coming. I think if it goes towards the route of requiring double closings, and for the audience that don't know, double closing is literally just a simultaneous close. So you have a closing between the seller and myself, and then I turn right around, either in the same transaction or a couple hours later, and then there's a transaction between myself and the buyer.
Correct.
The only thing with that is that I have to come up with the funds to actually buy the house.
Correct.
And there's very cheap transactional lending and lenders and things like that
you can use for those type of transactions.
Yeah, that we can use.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we've shifted our business, is doing more double
closings. Okay. Now, what would you recommend to, let's say, somebody that wants to start, buying properties, investing in real estate, not as a wholesaler, but let's say buy and hold or flip them, and is trying to connect with wholesalers. What do you think is the most important thing that a potential investor should look into when dealing with a wholesaler, so he knows or she knows that they're not dealing with somebody that is a scammer, or just what do you think is the best advice for that possible investor?
I honestly go into your local Facebook group, right? Your local RIA Facebook group or whatever, and reach out to other buyers. Okay. And ask them
reference. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, see who's posting deals, see who's posting good deals, and see who's posting them correctly. Right. If they're marketing the house, then likelihood is they're probably pretty new. If they're saying, we have an assignable contract, they're probably, a little bit more veteran.
Okay.
It's funny because I've only been in it about 2 years full time, but in wholesaling, that's kind of veteran. So it's it's crazy, right? Like there's a lot of people that'll be in it for a couple months and realize how hard it actually is, and they quit, right? Because the barrier to entry is so low, people think it's a get rich quick.
And there's a lot of mentorship programs that I've seen. There's so many, and they really sell this idea that it's so easy to get in and start making $10,000-$15,000 assignment fees like from the start, and people buy into that, right? I mean, they think this is an easy job, easy business.
They sell dreams, right?
Exactly.
That's one of the things I think that's kind of one of the reasons I never, bought into one of those, was because every time I talked to a couple different ones, right? And every time I talked to them, it was, I promise this, I promise that, they're trying to sell me this big dream, right? Whereas they weren't asking me, hey, what are your goals, right? What are you looking to do? Because I think when it comes down to it, like, people aren't going to run their businesses the same way. Mm-hmm. I run my business completely different than a guy down the street that I know, runs his. So I think the mentorship, if you are looking for a mentor, like, you got to find someone who looks out for you and like what your business is wanting to do, and knows the foundation of, whatever business it is that you're looking to get into. Like, look for someone who knows the foundation and has built a business in that vertical, and they're not trying to just sell you their business, because that's what a lot of people do. They try to sell you their business.
Correct.
They show you how to implement the strategies that they used into your business, mm-hmm. so that allows you to grow your business vertically instead of just kind of copy and paste. Because what took me 2 years to build, is probably going to take someone else 2 years to build if they build it the same way.
Correct. Now, what would you say for somebody that, because I think wholesaling is a great way to start the real estate journey, because if you do these assignment fees without too much capital that you need to invest from your own capital, you can make good assignment fees, and you can start allocating that capital to actually buy real estate and eventually get into the game of holding properties. How would they be able to get into the business? I mean, what would you tell them, somebody that wants to start doing wholesaling? What's the best first 2 steps to start, diving into it?
Step number one, learn. All right.
And there's so much available now. I mean, just Google it, learn books. I mean, there's so much information out there, free information.
You can find podcast after YouTube video after, free course. I mean, there's so much available to people now that will literally show you how to get started.
Yep.
Now, obviously, 90% of these people have, mentorships or coaching programs or, this, that, whatever. So they're not going to give out all the sauce.
Correct.
They're gonna give you enough to get going, to get a deal, or whatever the case may be. But step number one is learn. Okay, and what I tell people is cap yourself. Okay, because it's very easy to get lost in the learning, sphere, right? And you just kind of get the analysis paralysis where you think you got to learn every single thing before you start. So what I would say is cap yourself at like 3 videos or 3 podcasts.
And then take action.
Step number 2 is start.
Yep.
That's it. All right. I would say listen to like 3 to 5 podcasts, 3 to 5 YouTube videos, and start.
Awesome. Okay, great.
It's massive imperfect action. Like, you're going to mess up.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's going to happen. So, don't try to be perfect.
And I always use for any of my trainings or people that want to get into business, I always use the bicycle analogy, right? I mean, just get on the bike and start riding. I mean, you're going to fall 10 times before you actually become an expert riding on it. But it's the same thing applies to everything that we do, right? Like you said, you learn the basics, and then start doing it, because you can even learn more when you start doing it and you become better and better, right? So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Those are great 2 advices for people. Now, if people would like to touch base with you or check out your website, because obviously you have deals also and properties that you have under contract, how can they contact you by email or check out your website, or what would be the best way for social media people to connect with you?
Yeah, probably the best way to connect with me is, on Instagram. It's Austin Rice _REI. Awesome. That's my Instagram handle.
Perfect.
And then outside of that, feel free to, check out our website. It's bettercashoffers.com. And then, those are probably the 2 best ways to get in touch with us.
Awesome. What's the next big step for Austin and Better Homes buyers? I mean, I know you're launching your skip tracing company. We briefly explained what that is to the audience, but what is the next step for Austin? I mean, where are you taking this? What's your next big venture?
So yeah, we've got the skip tracing company launched now. That's Liquid Skip Tracing. So you can find that at liquidskiptracing.com. We have tier 1 level data for a fraction of the cost of the main competitors.
I'll just back up a little bit for the audience to understand. So once you run lists of motivated sellers on PropStream and you get all those, and then the contact information, then you hire a company like Austin's Liquid Skip Tracing for them to skip trace that information and get you their phone numbers or their address. And that's when you start calling or cold calling with a cold calling company to start getting in touch with these motivated sellers. And that's how you start building those potential sellers. And then obviously at the same time, you guys start building your buyers list. So when you get deals, you can sell it to those buyers. So that's kind of like a quick overview of how the process works.
Yep. And so, I spent a lot of time, researching and interviewing different providers and finally got with a good one. So we just launched that back in October. We're
awesome.
Crushing that.
That's great.
And then what's next, man?
You have the software going on too, right? You're thinking about another software for wholesaling.
We're in the process right now of trying to launch a CRM. I'm working with a developer We built a CRM on Podio. So for anybody that's familiar with Podio, Podio is probably, as of right now, the best platform to use as a real estate CRM especially for wholesaling. But Podio is just a blank slate. So we also have a CRM called Liquid CRM. It's built on Podio right now. Fully automates the whole process basically. It will generate PDF purchase agreements. It will calculate MAOs, which is a max allowable offer.
Correct.
It's super powerful. I built it out of necessity because I didn't like any other ones that I found online, and I didn't want to pay $500 a month for me and my team. So I just built it out of necessity.
Great.
We got that, but really, what's next, man, is we're gonna keep trucking along with the single family stuff. We've got a bunch of buyers, a bunch of institutional hedge funds that we work with as well. So we're gonna keep trucking along with that. We actually just launched a partnership program with our wholesaling company, which is pretty unique. I don't know anybody else that really does this. But we launched a partnership program with one of our buyers that's actually taken off and it's actually done really well. And essentially what it is it's kind of like having an internal wholesaling company for them, in the sense that they actually cover the marketing costs, and then they get first right of refusal, which for anybody that doesn't know, that just means that they get to get the deal before anybody else. So they pay for marketing costs. Our team works all the leads. That's what we've gotten really good at, is getting properties under contract at a good value. And then anyway, they get first right of refusal for 7 days. So they get 7 days to tell us yes or no. We have an agreed upon assignment fee that we get per deal that if they take it. So it's not like we're out here just gouging them and making killer spreads. We have an agreed upon max assignment fee that we get whenever we assign them the deal. And then what happens is any deal that they don't take, they actually get a revenue share for any lead that came from their marketing platform. So that's a pretty unique. Yeah, it's a pretty unique strategy that I've not really seen anybody else do.
Interesting.
I just kind of saw an opening because one of my buyers was like, listen, man, like, we want to close on 5 properties before March. How can we do that? And I told him, I was like, well, you can wait and you can try to outbid everybody, or we can just do it this way.
Interesting. Well, good luck on the new partnership. It sounds like a win-win for both of you guys.
Yeah, and I just told him, I was like, listen, man, because our average marketing costs right now are about $3,000 a month.
And that's the other thing also for the listeners is that you can get into this business for a lot less than $3,000 a month in marketing. Just so people know that they can start very small and gradually increasing that as their business is growing, right?
Whenever I first started, my marketing budget was $25.
So there you go.
I was paying for Podio, and that was it. So it's very possible to start this with a very, very minimal marketing budget.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I like about it, because this actually starting wholesaling is what can help you build that capital so you can actually go and buy properties later on. And now if you would have to choose just 2 top skills or attributes that you believe are critical or extremely important to unlock wealth, right? And unlocking wealth is a journey, right? It doesn't happen from one day to another. It takes time to unlock that wealth. And I believe wealth is not only financial wealth, relationships, abundance in health, and your peace and joy with your family. Like you unlock wealth by by having more time free. Now you have that wealth, which is enjoying time with your kids and your wife. And that's part of wealth, is not only financial. So what do you think are the 2 top skills that you would say work on this, because these are great to have to unlock wealth?
Sales is definitely a big skill.
Yep.
And then Outside of that, I would also just say consistency, man. Sales and consistency are the two that I would say are really going to take you far. Another one would be tenacity.
Yep.
Really just not letting things slow you down.
Yep.
I think those three together, right? I think it's a recipe for success, whether that be, today, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, or 6 years from now. If you've got those three things and you're working on those things, those three things consistently, it's a recipe for success.
Thanks for sharing that, Austin. Well, we're reaching our time, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, learning about your story, about what you're doing. Wish you the best of luck on the new ventures that you're launching, on the new partnership, on the software, on the skip tracing company, and wish you the best, man. And thank you for being on the show again. And we'll have you again in a year so you can tell us how your projects are coming along. But thank you so much, Austin. We appreciate you being here, and good luck, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you and learning from you.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure every time we talk, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right.